Today is August the 26th, 2021. My name is Tanya Finchum. I'm with Oklahoma State University with the Oklahoma Oral History Research Program in the library. And today I'm in Enid, Oklahoma to speak with Harold Holden, known as H to many people, a renowned Western artist. His paintings hang in the Oklahoma State Capitol building, among other places, and his sculptures are located around Oklahoma, Texas, Kansas, I'm forgetting, Arkansas. And one of his sculptures is near and dear to the OSU Cowboy family, it's part of the We Will Remember Memorial located in Gallagher-Iba Arena on the OSU campus. This interview will be part of the We Will Remember Promise Oral History Project. And by way of context, January 27, 2001, a plane crashed carrying 10 men associated with the men's basketball program at OSU. Shortly thereafter, the university and community made a promise to the families of those 10 men that they would never be forgotten. Toward that end, February 2002, the We Will Remember Memorial in Gallagher-Iba was unveiled and included a life-size kneeling cowboy sculptured by H. Holden. So thank you for allowing me to come today.
You're very welcome.
Before we get into that day and some of your work, can you tell us when and where you were born?
1940 in Enid, Oklahoma.
In Enid, okay, which is where we are today. You haven't ventured too far from home then.
No, just 10 miles north. That's all.
Okay. So let's talk a little bit about your sculpture for the university for the memorial. How did that come about? Do you recall?
What I can remember is the Fleming people I knew. I'd done some paintings for them, and so they were kind of instigated me for the job of coming up with the idea, and they were I think I did a painting after the Nate collage thing for them.
How did you know them?
Just through doing work for them before.
Okay.
Yeah. And they were friends, part of the families, and friends of Edna May's. So it kind of gave me a shot at it.
So when someone from the university came to invite you to do this, do you recall that day?
It was kind of in a hurry, like to do the sketch, to get the idea down. That was the main thing. And really, the reason I came up with this idea was because it was my first grandson died just. He was 5 years old. 5 months, 5 weeks, 5 days. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
He was 5 days old, and I remember when I was told that he died, I fell down on my knees, and so that's where this idea came from. Figuring that the people who lost their kids or whatever is pretty hard. And I did have a lot of people come up after that unveiling and said they really appreciated doing that piece. And I gave them the university an edition of 50 of the small one. And they gave, if I remember, they gave one to each family. And then they had the option to buy more at cost. And then I don't know what they did with the rest. They must have some, might still have some, I don't know.
I don't know. What prompted you to do that?
I don't know, I just thought that it was a little different than just doing a monument. Kind of gets to you, or got to me, because I was already kind of feeling bad. And so I think that was one of my more emotional pieces I've ever done.
And you had to turn it around in a pretty quick time.
Yeah, I just come up with a sketch and part of the design, and they said go for it. And I think Birdwell was in on that too.
Is he the one that came out to talk with you about doing the project?
He might have been. I can't remember all the.
It's been what, almost 20 years
20
ago.
years.
Yeah.
And
I guess it has been 20 years.
yeah.
2001.
So I was a young man then, compared to what I am now.
Well, when you did the smaller version, I don't know, mock-up or whatever you call it in your terminology, did you have to show it to a committee or one person, or?
Yeah, there was several people there. I can't remember who. It's just not registering with me. I know Birdwell was probably there. Was it Terry Don, maybe?
Probably.
Yeah, I think he was there. But
Any family members?
I can't remember whether the Flemings were there. They might have been, or one of them, or I don't remember.
That's okay. Did they request any changes?
Not really. No, they kind of, Sparks, and they kind of took it and made it look good.
Well, from the beginning, did you know where it was going to be placed?
I don't think I knew at first,
Okay.
but I might have.
And that it was going to be part of a bigger memorial?
Yeah, I knew the background because I kind of drew that up in my ideas, but not architecturally right, but it was that idea.
The vision was there.
Yeah.
It is it life size, or is it life size and a quarter?
Life.
Life.
Yeah.
Well, for someone who hasn't seen it, can you describe it for us?
The piece?
Uh-huh.
Let me look right behind me.
No, I'm looking, but you can't. This is a pop quiz.
Well, I had him kneeling down with his hat off and looking pretty forlorn or whatever. And that was the way I felt when I lost my grandson.
And
so that's where the feeling came from that I put into the piece.
And the hat is touching the ground?
Yeah.
Does that happen very often in the cowboy world?
I don't know. I guess if you get bucked off and your hat's laying over there, it's on the ground.
And then the only other time might be if you're grieving or experiencing loss.
You do it when at a function, where they play the national anthem,
Okay.
or if you meet a nice-looking woman like yourself.
Okay. So that hat code is cowboy hat code.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I noticed he's clean shaven, and some of your other ones have had a mustache. Mustache. Is there any particular reason you chose that?
No, just clean cut student over there. It's the cowboy.
And he has on chaps.
Chaps, yeah, and spurs, and he's wearing a vest. And then what else could you wear, I guess?
Yeah. Well, on the one in the arena, the spurs have like three buttons or fasteners down the side. So you did a detail.
Oh, on the shafts?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's called batwing shafts.
Batwing.
Uh-huh.
Okay, I learned something today.
Yeah.
So do they usually have three fasteners down through
Well,
there?
some do, some more or smaller. They make them all kinds, but usually the old batwings are pretty much like these here.
Okay. And anything unusual for the spurs?
Yeah, they've got OSU on the shank,
Okay.
so that he's either a student at OSU or he was actually probably put those on there to make sure that that's where he came from.
Okay.
You know, it's not something that someone had made and they just decided to have a cast made of that sculpture and put there. It's made, just for that purpose.
Well, some people have asked if you chose chaps in the vest because Pistol Pete wears them.
Yeah. Well, actually, most of the time he's good. He had those high top boots,
That's true.
and I got a lot of pictures of him because I'm going to do one of him.
Okay. For OSU.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. If I already, you wouldn't have that mock-up, would you, dear? You cut that out. Oh, that's that mock-up there. That's a miniature of the real mock-up.
Okay.
But that's what it'll look like.
How long will it take you to do that?
Oh, overnight probably.
No. 6 months, a year?
I'm not sure.
I mean, I don't have
I'm
any
getting
idea.
slower, you know.
I mean, I don't know how long it takes normally to do one, so
But
you can educate
didn't
me.
used to take as long as it does now.
It's funny how that happens.
Yeah. Anything physical, when I keep from falling off a sculpture stool and hitting on top of my head and making everything go haywire on me.
That makes
It makes it harder.
Well, did you have a face model for the Kneeling Cowboy?
No, just kind of a guy that kind of looks forlorn.
Yeah, he has those creases in his
Yeah,
forehead.
he's kind of,
Yeah, and I think are his eyes closed or just almost closed?
yeah, they're
Closed.
pretty much, I think. Yeah.
And I tried to count the spokes on the spurs.
Oh,
I couldn't see them close up in the picture to see how many there were. I was thinking maybe there's 10 to represent the 10 men, but I don't know that for sure.
I don't remember. I have a,
That didn't go into your thinking, though, is my question, I guess.
no, I don't think that was part of it.
Okay, that's fine.
Just OSU Spurs. Like most of us Cowboys put something on the sides of their Spurs, you
Okay.
know. A lot of them. I'm sure there's ones with OSU on it. The
Somebody probably has some.
rodeo team and stuff.
Well, had you had a connection to OSU before Mr. Birdwell came out to see you?
Well, yeah, I went to OSU.
Okay.
Uh,
What year do you remember?
it was, let's see, it had to be 60. I mean, it was.
I was thinking maybe if you graduated from Enid High School in 1958. Does that sound right?
Yeah, and
So did you go straight to OSU then?
no, and the only connection I had with OSU for a while there was taking my horses over to the vet school because they were real good at
Okay.
fixing them up. And can't think of it was kind of hard to explain about. You can cut this out, but it's when Ed May said OSU called and wanted to make you a distinguished alumni. I said, well, I never graduated. And so tell them they got the wrong Holden. And they said they don't care whether I was there for, short time. So, or at all, just about. So I was there 1 year, and then I think it was the old draft started hounding me down.
Yep, it's about that time.
Yeah. Then I went in the Navy for a while. But I was always connected to OSU because of Pistol Pete. When I was a kid, I got to sit on his lap because I rode my little horse or pony in the parade. And, you'd rear him up in front of the judges. So they gave me first place, $5. Still got the check. But I got to sit on his lap and hold his gun. And it was, I thought Pistol Pete was like Buffalo Bill. Everybody knew about him.
Pretty big deal, yes.
Yeah. So I always had that connection that Edna Mae, my wife, she represented their family there towards the last, And I think the last time we did something in the parade, I had a friend that had a stagecoach. And I heard from stories that he used to ride around in a stagecoach with Les Williams, who was a cowboy back then that I knew. And they had a little whiskey on the drive around. So but his son, Frank, it's not the second, it's Frank Eaton, period, I guess. And there's a picture of him up there with. Anyway, I did one painting of him for the Capitol when they inducted him in the hall. I can't remember what he was already a member, I think, of the Cowboy Hall. But I I think it was one Senator Ford. He was doing having different artists do different things for the Capitol, and he gave me that job. So
Did you have to compete, like submit something and get it selected enough? You just got invited to do?
yeah,
Okay.
well, I think he knew my work.
Right.
There were several other artists doing other pieces. That was just one of them I got, which I was lucky.
Well, which is harder, doing the painting or doing sculpting?
Well, it's painting, in color. It's kind of harder, probably, because you've got so many variances of the color and values, and I like to paint, but when I get to paint, I finally get where I'm painting good, and then I got to go back to sculpture, and so it kind of. I think one friend of mine that's good artist, good painter, he said you can't go back and forth all the time. You got to stay with one thing. But I tried to go back and forth, but sculpture kind of took over. See, 23 monuments or 24 or something like that.
Okay, that's a significant number.
Yeah, yeah, compared to some.
Well, from what little I know, you have to you make your model here and then you send it off to a foundry.
Well, I've done it all different ways. The first piece, and I think this piece I did, I think use measurements off my small one, and built the armature out of anything, and sculpted it, but several, I've got a great big piece at the Stockyards, Oklahoma City. It's heading to market. I did that the old way, where I had to build scaffolding around and measure every quarter-inch on the moquette, and whatever size you're going to make it. If it's going to be up to 6-inch squares, you put your upright, then you measure in off of the little one, and you write it down so that you do the same thing big. And you stick these nails in there, and you bring your clay out to the edge of the nail, where the nail is. And then you eventually pull the nails out, and then you can sculpt it. And then most of those early ones I made, I had a mold maker make them right there in the studio. But since I started using the foam, they cut it out of foam. They put your moquette in the computer, and it cuts your piece out in the foam. And it's not real detailed or anything, but it's got everything, most everything proportion-wise. So, and you can, that foam, you can carve on it or sand on it. It's real fine. It's not like styrofoam where pebble, the white. No, it's real. Use all kinds of sandpaper, and you can sand it down and use those same tools you use on the clay. And then you get it the way well, you want it there, and then foundries, they shoot the clay on, but I paint it on so I can get some help from Edna May paint, and then sculpt on it.
Fine tune the details.
Yeah, and then you can take part of it, cut part of it, some of it, and put it in my horse trailer or stock trailer and haul it to the mold maker, where I don't make the molds in the studio anymore. So it's a lot easier to do, but it's a cost. It's all that hand work I did. They do it with a computer, so
It's amazing, isn't it?
yeah.
It takes something away from it, though, doesn't it?
Well, it does in the way that you can't dig in the clay. After you put the clay on, it's on there like this much or something. And if it's not right, which happens a lot, they carve in, you hit the styrofoam, and you just go ahead and have a bunch of clay and styrofoam pieces, but then you repaint it, and you get there eventually.
And it's not as heavy as the old way, I would think.
No, you couldn't make the molds somewhere else because of the weight of my platform and your I-beam, because it's going to weigh a lot. You have to make it to where it won't
Topple over.
jump up. I did one piece for Altus, Oklahoma. It's called Crossing the Red. And I did the cowboy horseback in one room. I had one big tall room, and then did one part up there, and I did the steers that are in the water over in the other one, and I had to have it match up. So it was real kind of tedious doing that, but that was the old way of doing that. In fact, I still got my grid of string going across that you drop plumb lines on. If your horizontal starts going like this, like a little off there, while your plumb line will show you where it's supposed to be. You just put your nail there.
So you have to be good at math.
I knew enough to write those figures down. And
So it sounds like it's almost like a piece of grid paper. But,
Yeah.
But 3D wise, I suppose.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah, you have a little upright. You measure in on the model, and you write it down in a book. And then if you're going 6 times that, why, or whatever size you go up, why all those squares that you do on the small one, they become squares up on that big one, and so that's how you enlarge. And if you tried to sculpt big without measuring, you will have a piece. You can cut this out, but
Okay.
We're like the Spirit Riders. It's a terrible piece. Huh? I'm sorry, I told her not to mention it. It's the horses all like broken legs, and I think the horse's head looks like it's a life size, but the body is life and a quarter, or
Well, you have to pay attention to the details, don't you?
yeah,
On things like that.
he didn't start right in the first place, but
I can't imagine once you do one as big as that one is, how are you going to get it to the foundry to turn it into bronze? In parts, like you said?
Yeah,
Take
you
it
either
apart?
have the molds made there and take it to the foundry where they pour the waxes, and or you with the styrofoam stuff they can cut part of it, or you got them on wheels on the platform. If it's a size you can roll out into a trailer.
Okay.
Might be in several pieces, but you.
Well, then how do you put it? Do you put it back together, or does someone else?
No, they'll make molds on the pieces. Some of them even might be cut more. The mold maker does that,
Okay.
and I used to make molds when I first started out, and I probably ruined more pieces than anything. It's just like any other business. That's a craft that's different than you have to have a good foundry that can do the work.
Do you have one that you use regularly? A foundry?
Well, I'm using one down in Arlington, Texas right now, but I've also used one up in Loveland, Colorado. But the one that's at Gallagher, that was cast at the Crucible in Norman, and they've cast a lot of my things, but that's another story.
That's okay. If you want to tell it, tell it.
No.
We know Norman from OSU. It's the university down south.
Yeah, yeah. It's a good foundry. It's just it's hard to deal with sometimes.
Okay. Well, then that moves us into the day of installation. Were there any issues when that day came? Did it all go smoothly?
You know, I can't even remember when they put it in there. I remember going to when they unveiled it, but I don't know whether I was even there or not. I don't know. I usually, they want to have the artist there, but I guess it was pretty black and white on that, to where they were going to put it and everything. So.
And pretty easy to get to. It's not like you're having to lift it over something to set it back down or anything. It's just in the door.
Yeah, and it's not that heavy. The piece probably 500-600 pounds at the most. They're all hollow.
Okay, I was going to ask that.
Yeah.
Even the ones that are outside.
Yeah, they're all bronze is hollow. If it wasn't hollow, they would have and solid, but it would have all kinds of shape things that would go wrong with it.
Okay.
And you wouldn't even be able to pick up some of the pieces, like small pieces. It would be so heavy you couldn't.
That's
hardly
what I
pick
was
them
thinking.
up.
Yes.
But they've always done hollow. Some real small ones, you can do those solid, but whenever you get a little bigger, something will go wrong if it's poured solid.
Sounds like you've learned lessons along the way about this.
Yeah, but that's the way things were done hundreds of years ago, and that's the way they do it now, except for the styrofoam part. But the way I pointed it up in the beginning, that's the way they did it years and years ago.
I'm thinking now with the 3D printers,
Mm-hmm.
it's probably come in handy at some point down
Well,
to
that's
his
where
thing.
they use it to cut those things out.
Okay, that makes sense then.
And the story about when I was working on uh, Will Rogers for the airport, Ed May was helping me, and they came in big chunks. And this was might have been the first time I used that system, and they weren't quite perfected that good yet. But you had to use that foam, expanding foam.
Mhm.
But they forgot to tell me the expanding foam will make it come apart. So we got to, put this foam all over and got it all stuck together like the big hips, it's a big piece. And we got it, put together and held like that. Well, it started expanding. I had to cut the whole thing off again, start over. Finally, I figured out the hard way on that. You got to take the expanding foam and you have a bottle of spray water, and you put that foam on there on one piece, and you spray it with water, and it doesn't expand
That
as
stops it.
much.
Stop.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So that's the way that's done anyway.
So when you were switching techniques like this, how would you just learn it by experimentation, or would you go take a class, or what?
No, just kind of do one and
Trial and error.
yeah, yeah. I just started like the styrofoam started, shaping, getting to the details and all the undercuts you have to cut out. And, but the styrofoams have perfected it a lot better. There's some that do pretty good, but I haven't seemed to find that one yet.
Well, does the styrofoam kind of speed up the process so
It
you can
yeah
turn them out a
yeah
little quicker?
yeah. That's the part where you did all the measurement and all the work. Takes a long time. So where's your and all that was for is to get the proportions,
Okay.
because you can't look at uh, a big piece. You can't look at a big piece and see the proportions. Or you got to do your small model and measure off so the proportions are right up here.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you'll do something like some art I've seen. They don't use any measurements or anything, and they'll come out, all out of whack.
Like more abstract.
Yeah, yeah, that's what they say, I guess. We've got a few of those here in town.
So when you go from doing a human to an animal, do you go out take pictures, or how do you decide on those measurements, like from like a horse or a cattle? Or...
Well, everything's done on the maquette, and that's what you get.
And you just visualize.
Well, you can measure like a horse. You can measure the whole horse with the head. The head goes the shoulder, and then I think it's top of the neck. Back, use the head. Goes down to the fetlocks from the belly of the horse. Everything on the horse you can measure with the head of the horse. So if you got a life-size head, which is more like 24 inches or something, then you can measure the big head. I mean the big horse. But you'll be measuring, getting the small model big.
Yeah.
So the small model is where you can mess up.
The average person might not know that about the horse's head. So
Yeah.
that's from experience from from
Well,
your
I had the class down at the Cowboy Hall,
Okay.
and no matter, I gave them each a sheet of paper showed how to measure the man compared to the horse's head and all that, and showed them how to do it and everything. And half of them just didn't. I said, "Did you check your measurements on it?" Well, I thought I did. Where the horse's head's huge, and the body's little. And I said, "I don't think you did." So,
Well, on some of your earlier pieces, I mean, did you already know that sort of thing, or did you go see a horse in person and come back and do it back and forth, or photographs, or
well,
what?
I've been around horses all my life, so
Yeah, so you just
I
know.
can look at some piece, although there's all different sizes of horses, but in general, I can have the measurements written down for you on the average horse, the average kind of horse that I use. But if it's going to be like Pistol Pete, it's going to be a older type horse, not a quarter horse. Whereas most of my cowboy stuff's quarter horses.
Yeah, and I noticed motion. Most of them seem to be in motion of some kind. So
Yeah, I like motion, but I haven't. Well, I've got a few in here that are got some pretty good motion.
hmm which do you prefer doing, the humans or animals?
Well, I don't know. They're about equal to me. The
Okay.
humans, you can, if you need to, take a picture of, have Ed May take a picture of me doing something, and so you can see and then I usually do a little, what they call a pinch model, but I do it a little bit more detailed than most pinch models. So I use that pinch model to do the maquette. Uh, just kind of the idea of in the round. Which if you do a sketch, you don't see the other side. So it kind of helps you get the other side, and
Yeah. Think about things like that, three-dimensional. So you need to go
yeah,
around. So you have to pay attention to the backside of everything.
everything. And yeah, like I said, the paintings or drawings, you don't get that. Uh, so
Well, then let's talk a little bit about public art versus privately owned. Is there a difference in your mind for how you approach those, or if you like one better than the other, or
well, I think a lot of public art is done, and like we will remember. I mean, it's a piece that people want for that. Like I've done pieces. I have one over Fort Smith. It's of a black marshal horseback and a dog, and that's a guy named Bass Reeves who was a marshal, do a deputy marshal, but he brought in more outlaws or whatever than most of the other ones did. He wasn't because he was black, why he didn't get all the accolades. And but when he ended up over in Muskogee, he was a policeman there his last years. And when he died, they had thousands of people there.
Mm.
But then after that generation died, why, they didn't even know where he was buried. So it just kind of didn't, like, other marshals, the White Earps and all that, they didn't get any, publicity back then. But they've written a lot of books they've written about him now. And
I was going to ask, how did you prep to do him? Do a lot of research and
yeah, and he's carrying on his saddle the things that were actually carried, and so I had a big horse because he was a big man, but he was more like a standard bred horse or jumper type looking horse.
Did you have to go to Arkansas to do some of this research, like to do an archive or to see photographs or what?
I did go to the museum over at where the actual jail and Judge Park, the hanging judge. Have you ever been over there?
It's been a while, but yes.
They have the gallows there too,
Uh-huh.
and they hang somebody just about every day. Not really. When Ed May and I were there, we got to participate in maybe viewing part. I can't remember, but they just do it for.
It's a strange feeling, though, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. Well, how many? I don't know how many he hung over there, but since his name was the hanging judge, I think it was about 80, 90, something like that.
It's part of history, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. And they say there's research on Bass Reeves was that he accidentally shot his cook when they were out on the, chasing somebody, and they got put in prison. And then the trial, he won the trial. And so he's back in business. Then his son, they killed his wife. So they were going to go after him. And they didn't think Bass would want to do that, but he insisted, and he went after his son, brought him in. That was a strange story.
Yeah.
But they got a lot of history and books and so forth. Even his relatives are part of what they're doing now. And it's really gotten a lot of attention, his history. So maybe they'll make, they've had a bunch of little movies for TV things. But I'm trying to think of that one guy's name. They bought the rights to do a big movie, and it just seems like some of these movie people say things and then happen.
Right.
We're out of money now or something.
Well, it sounds like you're a history buff along with being a creator of art.
I like Oklahoma history of the West. And there's a lot of stories in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
The history.
So you can't retire anytime soon.
No, I can't because I've got some big piece I got to finish.
What do you think will be your last one? Do you have your ultimate you want to do before you?
I think this Pistol Pete's
going to be your last, or maybe.
I'm hoping that it'll be my last monument anyway.
So when will he be finished?
Soon.
This year? In 2021?
No.
Okay, next year then.
No.
Okay, soon is good enough.
As soon as let's see, Barry Sanders gets done, and
so when is he supposed to be?
He's supposed to be done this year.
This year,
football season. Like I said, I'm getting a lot slower than. And Barry Sanders is. It's like I was trying to get somebody to find the style of shoes they wore back then. Because they sent me modern stuff, and they haven't been able to find shoes that Barry Sanders, the type that he wore. And it's really strange to me that he wouldn't have his shoes there, because he was, Heisman, the greatest running back. And I would just borrow the shoes,
Yeah.
But I don't know. They must not have them. But
can you go from a picture?
Well, that's what I have to go to, but it's
not as good.
Yeah. It's not like having the piece there where you can see the details.
So that's slowing the process down just a little?
Yeah, that would slow me down. Among other things, not fall on my head or something like that. And then Edna Mae, she's kind of carries this whip around, if I don't get stuff done. Get in there.
So with Barry, did the university just say, will you do this for us?
I guess after I did Boone.
After you did Boone. Is Boone life size or he seems
he's life and a half.
Oh, okay. Plus he's sitting up. You put him up on a pedestal.
His pedestal, yeah. And most all monuments are up on the pedestal.
Will Barry be up too?
Sure.
Yeah.
I think that was the size where a whole bunch of people, couldn't get to it or so easily.
Yeah. Was he a difficult one to do, Boone?
His face was.
Was it?
Yeah, I kind of lost it on his face. I just couldn't get a likeness for some reason. But
well, you got the posture right with him doing the
yeah.
And the hand in his pocket.
I could have had that piece done a long time ago if they just had it with no head on
it. Put his hat over it.
Yeah.
Well, it got unveiled during COVID, so I'm not sure how many people showed up for that. I didn't go.
There wasn't many. I was standing over the side. They just had the major stuff.
Well, I'm assuming that ones that are outside will have more upkeep than what like the Kneeling Cowboy. He's inside, so you won't have to do as much to him to keep him looking good through the years.
Yeah, and a lot of mine don't have enough. Stuff like Increlac. There's one here, Boomer, down the street down there. I think he had 7 coats of Increlac on him. and he's still the same color, same everything. And that was done in 86, I think.
Wow.
But some of them turning, corroding, if you don't get, especially water that's not rain, but has chemicals in the water, sprinklers get on it or whatever, and it corrodes if you don't have a good coating on there. And they try to say, well, the wax will take care of that, and it doesn't. It wears off. And,
Well, your work seems to have some interesting names. How do you come up with those? Or does someone else?
she might sometimes, and it's kind of in the idea sometimes. Or a cowboy will come in and say, "That's a so and so," That's a good name.
Well, I don't know. Is the Kneeling Cowboy called the Kneeling Cowboy, or is he called We Will Remember? I mean, I know the whole memorial's We Will Remember,
Yeah.
but does the cowboy have a?
Well,
is it just Kneeling Cowboy?
That's what I have. People have to say if you want to know what. If you're trying to talk about that, why the ones that Kneeling Cowboy? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But if it's just We Will Remember, they might not remember.
Yeah, because there's the granite, and there's various pieces to that memorial.
Yeah.
And the cowboy is standing on, I don't know, granite maybe? It's brownish.
Around it?
Around it, yeah, that it's sitting on.
Yeah, but it's not that high, something like that.
And is that to represent the Colorado site, or?
I don't know.
That wasn't your decision, huh?
No.
Okay, that's good enough.
And they had the spirit rider there on the deal. It was not my decision either.
Yeah, I noticed he's pointing. Well, I'm assuming he's pointing toward Colorado the way he's got in position, but I don't know. I may be just guessing at that too.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Trying to just figure out some of the symbolism that they were trying to accomplish with the whole thing.
Yeah, I think they thought just having the guy grief.
Yeah, be respectful.
Yeah.
Were the family members, did they like it for the most part?
Yes, they did.
For the most part.
Some came up, cried. And then I was there when they gave out the maquettes to the people. That was different.
That was a lot of emotions that night.
Yeah.
That day.
Yeah, and real emotions. You lose somebody, and there's something there to kind of remind everybody.
Have you been out to the site in Colorado?
No.
Did you go to the dedication? Well, not the dedication, the memorial service when they had. We
drove. Now I might be wrong, but we drove by it on the air. We caught an airplane and going in and out of Denver, and I think we drove by it, or we might have drove up there to it.
Got close to it.
But I saw so many pictures of it that it might be just in my mind that I drove over there.
Well, do you recall the day of the crash? Do you have any memories from that particular day, January 27th?
Just the news.
Just the news.
Yeah.
Figured since you are an OSU alum, you might be paying attention when OSU comes on the news.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you were at OSU, were you majoring in art?
Yes, I was. But
do you remember a professor called Doyle Reed?
Yeah, sure.
He was an art professor.
Yeah,
I think he went to Taos, did stuff in Taos.
Yeah,
aqua tints.
And he has started that Paseo area, like down in Oklahoma City, all the art galleries, and his wife still got a gallery there. No, not his wife. I'm sorry. I got
That's
that
okay.
wrong.
His daughter had one in Taos for a while, but she made skirts. She didn't do art.
Oh. Maybe I'm thinking of different.
Martha Reed, does that sound right? I don't know. It doesn't matter. I was just wondering if you knew, if you had Doyle Reed, since he was there about the time you were, I guess, at OSU.
I can't remember really.
That's okay. It's been a long time ago.
Yeah.
Close to 60, over 60 years, I guess, since he was there. A long time.
Yeah.
So do you have a favorite sculpture?
Well, that would probably be emotional, more emotional than the rest of them. But I did do one of the for the stockyards heading to market down there, and I dedicated that in unveiling to my grandson during that time frame. That's why
You were working on that at the time?
yeah,
Is that
well,
what you're
yeah, I
saying?
was
Is that what you're
dedicating it there, and had him
Okay.
put that on there. And then I got the news about plane crash, and I got the job to do it. So it was all channeled from my grandson.
And then a few years later, you had a lung transplant.
I did, and I'm still surviving. My lung's good. My back's. I used to be close to 6 foot, taller than my wife, and now I think I lost 5 inches.
Wow.
Just my back's gone. And I don't know why.
Is it from years of roping, or from years from sculpting, or
Well,
just?
if it would have been the horseback part, it'd been getting bucked off. I had to. This PBS or one of those deals from Oklahoma City, they wanted to do a story, and they came down. It was just getting where it was getting cold a little bit, and my studio out north, and they asked me if I could saddle a horse and ride off, and that's where they do the end, And I said, sure. Then I thought about it. The cold snap in there, the horse is going to have humps in their back. So I thought, well, Edna May's horse is a great ranch horse. I thought he'd be she liked big horses, so he was big horse, tall. But so I got him and saddled him up and went to sort of gauge in the little pasture, and I was going to get on, and I just didn't get my leg quite over the cantle, and he ducked his head and bucked me off.
Uh-oh.
And I landed on my head and neck. All this felt like electricity going through me. And I said, that's what I say now, that my back went down so fast because of her horse did that to me. She doesn't like that, though.
Do you still ride today?
Oh, got a couple you can ride, one, and then one that's just got everything wrong with him in the world, plus being old. That I had my back operated on way back, and and had been knocked out of alignment down below, and they put screws and plates and pulled it back together. And when I came back to that prima donna surgeon, I said, what can I do now? He said, anything you want to. I said, horse, anything you want to. 3 months later, I was saddling a horse on the side of that's how long it lasted. So, and I'd gone and traded for a little horse. So wouldn't have to fall as far if he put me off. But he was a real nice little horse. I still got him. And
so you've always had one?
Pretty
most
much,
of the time?
Yeah. And I did a lot of trading. I raced them. I did about everything with the horse. But we had a art collector down. He lived in Houston, and he liked my art when I saw it at the Cowboy Hall. He said, "I'll show you a horse, picture of a horse." And told me his breeding, and he's a pretty good sized horse for a cutting horse, cutting bred, but he was bigger than most of them you see that are cutting horse. And he said, I'll buy that piece, the big piece, if you trade me that horse for the other little smaller piece. I said, and he showed me an article in the Quarter Horse Journal about him raising horses. I said, well, okay. And I ended up, I think, trading for maybe 8 different horses. And the one horse I've got, the gray, was the last horse I got from him. And of course my good ones died. And he could have been a good horse. He was an accident waiting to happen, though, for some reason. So, but yeah, I'd have to probably get Edna Mae a big horse, because she doesn't like to ride small horses. Makes her look too big.
Well, if you hadn't have been an artist, would you have just stayed in the cattle business, or do you know what your backup plan was?
Oh, I don't. I never. When I was young, I didn't
have one. Okay.
Didn't have one.
Well, how did you get into art? Let's ask that.
Well, my grandfather was an artist, not professionally, but he was an artist, and so that's kind of where I started from. And he collected art too. But he was in drilling business, so he wasn't an artist professionally, but he could have been real good. And he did some nice things that we got. But he kind of pushed me to want me to be an artist. And the only desire I had was cowboy art. I liked the West too. I wasn't interested in doing like people just standing there like Boone. But I was interested in doing cowboy, maybe Indians. And I've got a few Indian pieces. since my wife's part Choctaw. I didn't say how much.
Well, we should probably say how you met your wife.
I met her when she came out to look at a piece I was working on in the studio. Some friends of hers brought her out to look at it, and I looked at her, and kind of got together that way.
And you were sold.
Yeah, and I had a little healer. I used to raise Queensland blue healers, those Australian cattle dogs, and she took a liking to my dog. So,
And how did you propose?
I don't know.
Put you on
She
the
might have
spot.
proposed to me. She's not going to say anything.
We can pass on that question
Yeah,
if we
okay.
need to.
Okay.
How long have you been married? That's a tough question too, huh?
32 years.
32 years. Okay. So let me back up then. How did your family come to be in Oklahoma?
Well, they were from, on my dad's side, they came from Ireland. Nebraska, they moved down here, my grandfather worked on a railroad. And anyway, they ended up in Enid. And my grandfather on the other side, he was from Illinois originally, but he lived in Tulsa, and he discovered the first portable drilling rig, which it's in the museum down here, and so he was in Oklahoma. They had started a bottling works where he's invented some of the bottling works the bottle cap, he invented that.
Wow.
The kind you have to, and of course there's no residuals from any of that, but he was an inventor, and
So that's you got some of your creativity maybe from.
yeah, he was wanted to be an artist too. And my dad was a horseman, and put me on one when I was probably had to be 4 or 5, because he got killed in a plane crash when I was 6. But we just he raised horses, so we just kind of kept those until they died, mainly because I moved away for school and stuff. There wasn't much left when I got back, but I got some horses then, and I had after the Navy, I went to work in Wichita, Kansas, and I kept my horses there at the grandparents' place. And then I found out that there was a job in Houston with the Horseman magazine. And this back when you kind of, I think doing fine art was not, people weren't into the buying art back then. Maybe some in Santa Fe or something, but it wasn't popular, like it is now, or became. So I was doing little things, when I worked for Horseman, I had to do drawings for the magazine, and I sold my horses so I could move to Houston to work down there. And my granddad got mad at me because I sold them, because he liked to go out and look at them and feed them treats and stuff.
When did you pick up sculpting then? From the Horseman magazine, and then how did you get into sculpting?
Well, I was working for one of the places I worked down there was for a tool company, designing, drawing the tools, the catalog and stuff.
Like a draftsman of sorts?
Yeah, it wasn't very fun, but I started using the erasers to make little things out of them. You know, Indian heads and cowboy, stuff like that. It kind of got me interested in doing stuff like that. And I can't remember how I just kind of learned. I got the clay, and I was doing everything then, making the molds that didn't turn out, and realizing that mold making, if you're going to produce art, the mold making takes up a lot of time. That's why they got mold makers. That's all they do.
What did you try to like emulate a certain sculptor, or you just went your own way?
I just tried to do whatever I could, but
okay.
You look at books of Russell and Remington, and you could find faults with some of Remington's horses, but just because they didn't do the horse correct. I mean, he obviously knew horses, but he'd have a front leg, but the forearm part up like here, and it only goes to here. But it looks for action. It looks like more action going on. But I looked at it and said, well, that couldn't be like that. But it makes it, for the average person that doesn't know anything, it makes it look more action.
Maybe the welder got it wrong. Whoever welded the pieces parts back together. I don't know.
I think he did it on purpose
to make it look.
Because he did it in his paintings too. So.
Okay. I was trying to give him the benefit of the doubt there.
Yeah, well, it worked. I'm sure he knew everything about a horse, except I don't know if he ever been on one. But
well, was there any point when you thought, I think I'll get out of the art business?
No.
No?
I might have been a starving artist for a long time, but where else was I going to do? I did the commercial work. Of course, now commercial art is not non-existent. It's computerized. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't even be able to get a job now as an illustrator or anything like that. And so back then, I could still be working in that type of field, advertising or whatever it is.
I'm just thinking, with the economies go up and down, sometimes art gets pushed aside for that.
It's one thing you gotta do is save when you're making good money. Save that money, because it's going to get bad.
Yeah.
If you don't do that, then You're always scraping the barrel.
That's where your business partner comes in. Huh?
Yes, she takes care of all that. She's giving me the evil eye.
And we're sitting today in Holden Art and Law.
Yes, it was when we got this place. Why, obviously, she was a practicing attorney, but she wanted to show the art in here too, and so that's how she started here.
Seems like an unusual mix.
Yeah, and now she doesn't work here. She works for a firm around the corner.
Still keeps tabs on the gallery, though.
So, yeah, if you saw the door, it says open, what's it?
Open by appointment or by chance?
Or by chance.
By chance.
Well, by chance, you'd be chance. She usually has a showing or something once in a while.
So besides working on Barry and Pistol Pete, have you got any other things in the works? Doesn't have to be sculpture, I know, but like paintings or anything, or is that your two main projects at the moment?
Yeah, that's
That's it. So
yeah.
OSU's bringing you to the end then with
Right.
with 4. They'll make 4.
Yep.
Right.
And the other 2 probably came from We Will Remember the Cowboy. That's probably where they come up with me to do the job. Because they liked what I did there, but
would you change anything on him now that's 20 years later? When you look at him, would you change anything?
I don't think so.
You're happy with him?
Yeah. Yeah. Better not turn around.
So that would not. That's not. Well, that's a life-size one behind you, right?
Uh-huh. That's just bored out of the mold of the original, and then the mold was destroyed. So I have a copy of that. It would be hard to have copies of all the big ones. You couldn't.
Well, how did you sign your pieces, the sculptures? Do you sign H or do you sign? Do you have a brand or what?
A lot of them I'll sign Harold Holden, or a lot of them I use my brand, which is an H with a T in the middle, and then Holden.
On the Kneeling Cowboy, how did you do it? I haven't looked close enough to see. Do you remember? You don't know?
No, I don't remember.
That will be my task when I get back in Gallagher. I will look.
Yeah, well, it's on that too, I'm sure.
Well, I've noticed most of the ones like out in the public art will have a plaque that says who did it.
Right. And I think that does in there, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think it does. And when I was preparing for this, I came across that you had done a 1993 postage stamp.
Yes.
That must have been an experience.
It was different. Dealing with the postal people, what's kind of strange about that is there was a guy from here that worked at the bank that was on the board of the postal deal and wrote letters that we got an artist can do the stamp. We don't need any of those Eastern art because they don't
understand.
They don't depict what's really look like. They have little carriages and stuff like that and the land running. But I had the the sketches that I did 3 different designs, and they had this guy that used to be on the board or something of the postal. Well, he was something. Anyway, he got him to give my drawings back and small. Everything in the artwork had to be about this big.
Oh.
You know, because it goes down to here. And they, well, trying to think what happened on that deal. I have to refer to my.
Well, you were in pretty good company because I looked at some other ones, like Elvis Presley was one that year, and
Yeah,
and a couple
he,
other.
he beat me out though.
Well, that
Yeah.
was an honor though to get to do that, I would think.
Yeah, but the museum over here had the big frame, all of them in there, the drawings that they wouldn't let go out of their sight, you know, and they don't even know where they're at now.
That's not good.
No, it's a historical museum operated mainly out of the history center down there. They make all the rules or something. We tried to get back some of the art that we had given in the shows we had with other artists. And no, they said they don't know where that stuff is. They probably sold it, make money.
Or they didn't catalog it and it's stuffed away in the basement somewhere.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
I tried to get that stamp back, you know, put it someplace where it'd be seen.
Sure.
Because they didn't. But that's the way they operate.
Was that one of the highlights of your career, or do you have some other ones that are higher up than that?
Well, yeah, I think it's like this monument
Was the
meant
highlight?
more to me than that.
Okay.
I'm not. I still have. They made prints, 1,000 prints. I had to sign a number, but I got some of the prints, and I sell one once in a while. If we have them, yeah.
And then I think I keep looking at this one over your shoulder. That painting is that a version of what's in the Capitol? This one,
That one is.
hanging in the
yeah.
Capitol.
That's I think it's like 5 by 8 foot in the
Oh,
Capitol.
quite a bit larger then.
Yeah, they have different parts of the state. In one floor on corners, there'll be, and different artists did them, and then like different parts of the state depicted by different artists. And this is my part of the state, which is the Gloss Mountains.
I've driven by it. I think that looks familiar. It's on for 412, going toward
Yeah, you can
Diamond.
go on the.
Yeah, I've stopped there a couple of times to get a picture of the sun. The sun, the sky's been pretty through there, and that's looks like you're just right there, standing with it, looking at it.
Yeah, thank you. They
So
said the
you
game birds of western Oklahoma, and I made a mistake and put a little crane down. Like, he's gonna get shot, the game bird.
Well, herons will show up. It's herons, or
Yeah.
in Tennessee it's blue herons. I don't know what they are here, but they look similar. just gray instead.
Yeah, they got blue herons here too.
And prairie chickens.
They've got those.
And I guess it's quail. The
Yeah.
ones that's in the air there.
Yeah, that's the only ones I could come up with. I'm sure there are others, you know.
So you've got art scattered all across the state. I've seen
Yeah.
the two in Altus. I've seen
Oh.
those. And I've seen the monarch, the buffalo in front of the history center.
Yeah.
He's big.
I've made him with his horns tied into his hair so you kids can crawl all over it and won't impale themselves.
Okay. Yeah, think about those things, I guess.
Yeah.
Public art. And you haven't done too many women. Is there a reason? Are they
No, they're harder to do probably.
Okay.
You know,
Wow.
women. I got one of my daughter models for me for. It's part of. She's up there and she's part of a monument. He's playing the homesteader's wife. Yeah.
Okay, I stopped on my way into town and looked at that one
Yeah, that
today.
one.
And the
Yeah.
little girl's holding a doll.
Right.
Okay.
I wanted to use my granddaughter, but the people who funded it wanted their granddaughter in there.
Funny how that works out too.
Yeah.
Well,
Which my granddaughter was much better than.
well, and then you did the space shuttle woman.
Oh.
Woman.
Yeah.
I forget her name, but Ellen. Was it Ellen?
Yeah, it was Ellen.
And she's standing on a box. I guess she in real life was short.
No, I think I just designed that piece
that.
like that.
Okay.
Kind of a, you know.
Did she get to see it before?
She got to see it when it was unveiled.
Okay, not before.
Uh,
Okay. What do you remember anything she said about it? Was she happy with it?
she seemed to be happy. But
Yeah.
we went up to somewhere in Kansas, had a space museum, and kind of photographed the outfit, you know, so I could be authentic.
Okay.
So it's pretty authentic. And then the World War II, I based that on the Vance, no, what's or Woodruff, yeah, Vance, I think. Yeah, he was a Medal of Honor winner from here.
From Enid.
He was a pilot in the World War II. Yeah.
And then the farmer. Anyone in particular?
No, just
Not your likeness back.
no. In fact, I used a friend of mine that was he's modeled for me before. He was a cowboy. He just dressed up like a. Yeah, you know, you can put anything on somebody.
Yeah.
A hat that looks not like what I got on, but a flat or whatever they wore back then.
I noticed the farmer had a big bushy mustache on that one, I think.
Yeah.
So details. I mean, it's.
Well, you know, it started. I kind of thought about it a little bit. The one that was called Boomer was the guy making the run, and then down in the park, I did one that's called Holding the Claim, where the guy's claimed this land, and he's sitting there fiddling with the fire. He's got his coffee going and stuff. And horse wobbled out there. And then I think the next one was that homesteaders. It would be, I think, yeah, the homesteaders kind of looked like the same person. So I kind of, here's the way it happens, you know.
Okay. Telling a story.
Yeah, and then on that piece down there, I did relief plaques of the different, where it starts with the Indians and then is it cattle drives and then it comes after the cattle drive.
The big ranches.
Oh yeah, the big ranches. Then the farmers or homesteader types with, you know, had plow and then the what is it after
Holy claim.
I was holding the claim with the statue, but I meant going around it. Started
Oil and gas.
oil and gas, yeah.
Okay.
So it was the history of this area.
Eileen Collins was the astronaut.
Eileen Collins, you do remember that?
There's something like that. Okay. My memory's not the best in the world either, so I knew it was Eileen something. But
Well, I've kind of slacked off on my memory.
so, have you done a self-portrait
No.
or a sculpture of yourself?
No.
Not planning to? Not for
No.
this corner out here?
No, that'd be somebody to tear it down. They'd-
Or a
This-
bust? You don't generally do busts, do you?
well, yeah, I do some
You do
little
some
busts
little busts.
of Indians and
Okay. Those
Little-
people. I mean real people. Like Henry Bellman or someone like that.
well, I did do one of Bellman.
Okay.
Then I did one of Walters. That's in the Capitol, though. You know, one of those heads.
It's been a while since I've been down that hall, but I know
Well,
where you're talking
that's the only
about.
time I've ever been there.
All right.
So, yeah, and he's of course a big Democrat, and I was a Rush Limbaugh boy. But he was a funny guy. He helped me unveil that crossing the red piece in Altus. Kind of in the rain too, wasn't it? Yeah, it was.
That piece of all the ones that I've seen in person, besides the real remember one, hits more emotions. The faces on those cattle look like they're frightened, but that horse is determined. So and that's just my interpretation. I guess
Yeah,
people can
well.
interpret it however, but you could just feel I would not want to be the one crossing the river.
Well, that's what it's supposed to do, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you were making the Kneeling Cowboy here, were you thinking of those emotions too? What you wanted the viewer to get, that sentiment that you wanted to get across?
Yeah. Yeah, I thought I got his.
Mission accomplished, huh?
Yeah, I thought it was.
Yeah.
It's for the viewer to decide, I guess.
Well, people stop constantly. I mean, when we go to the basketball games, people are always looking. And yeah, people still visit.
Yeah, there's some, I'm sure.
And you gave permission to remember the 10 Run group to use it as the image on their promotional stuff.
Yeah, they gave little copies of him for the winters or whatever.
I mean, so he's used a lot. 20 years doesn't seem like it's been that long, but then it seems like forever in other ways. So
That's right. It doesn't seem that long, but like you said, it's forever.
I've asked most of my questions. Is there anything that you want to tell me that I haven't asked about? What was your pony's name when you were in the parade?
Spot, it was a paint.
The pony from your parade when you
Yeah,
was named Spot?
yeah, he was a paint.
Okay.
I had one Daisy, which was a little mare, and I was riding Spot that day because I could get him to rear up.
Did they take a picture of you that day?
Yeah, but nobody can find it now.
Nobody can. Would it have been in the paper?
I don't know.
I mean, sometimes they would put stuff like
I
that.
sat on the Pistol Pete's lap. I
And
remember that.
did you meet him again after that? At any point, do you remember meeting him again?
No, I don't think so. His son, we knew real well, and he gave me photos and stuff to use for the monument. Unfortunately, he's gone too now.
Yeah. Yep. Okay, well, then we will round up by saying, how do you want people to remember H. Holden?
That he might have been authentic.
We can take out might have been. Okay.
That's probably the
He
one
was the
word.
real deal.
Oh, I wouldn't claim to be the real deal, but I try to be authentic. I don't like to make big mistakes, which sometimes I do, but I don't like it. Usually they're not in my sculpture anyway. Although Edna May, she'll come out and correct something on me. She's pretty good at horse person, and you know, when you're working on a piece, why you get kind of, you know, I don't measure as much as because I know what I'm doing, but then I kind of slip a little or something. She comes out. Sometimes she's right, sometimes she's not.
So how do you take criticism, constructive criticism?
Well, most of the time, all right. Sometimes not so good, but
Maybe how it's delivered makes a difference.
yeah. Yeah, when she's standing there with a whip, change it.
As she chuckles behind me.
Yeah. Yeah,
So for all the pieces you've done, you've been happy with, you wouldn't go back and change
oh,
Any-
sure, I would. I'd change a lot of them.
a lot of wow.
But, you know, I'm always seeing what could be wrong on a piece.
I should have done this or I should have done that.
And, you know, some of them, I said, that turned out really good, you know. Then I start looking, get too critical. And I don't think Edna May is too critical after I'm finished because it's too late.
Well, and I would think she would have told you before then if something wasn't quite right.
If she saw it, she would have, yeah.
So she's been a good partner through all of this.
Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah. And she knows, you know, she's come from a ranching family, so she knows horses and knows what she's talking about most of the time.
And thank goodness she liked your dog, huh?
Yeah, she liked my dog. He's the only living thing that ever loved her.
I think we'll wrap up with that and say OSU's very thankful that you created such a memorable piece.
Well, and it really led to more work for me too.
Yeah.
So I can thank this guy.
All right then. Well, thank you for sharing with us today. It's
Okay.
been great.
Thank you. My pleasure.